The phone in your hand looks quiet, but every day it's taking part in a global tug-of-war. Not a war of soldiers, a war over what's inside it. Crack it open, and you're not looking at a phone anymore. You're looking at a map of the entire planet. Let's start with the battery. Inside it, lithium, a metal so light it floats on water, and so valuable that entire countries are betting their economy on it. About 60% of the world's lithium comes from just two places, Australia and Chile. Add Argentina and Bolivia, and you've named the four countries holding most of the lithium on Earth. Geologists even gave part of it a nickname, the Lithium Triangle. Now look at the chip and the motor that makes your phone vibrate. Inside them, cobalt. More than 2/3 of the world's cobalt comes from one country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And a chunk of that isn't dug up by machines. It's dug up by hand, sometimes by children as young as 7. That cobalt gets bought, refined, and shipped, mostly through companies in China, before it ever becomes a battery. We're not here to assign blame. We're here to trace the wire. And the wire keeps going. Now the part that actually makes your phone smart. The chip. Chips need rare earth elements, with names most people have never said out loud. Neodymium, dysprosium, terbium. They're not actually rare in the ground. They're rare in the world's ability to process them. China mines about 60% of the world's rare earths. But here's the real choke point. China refines over 90% of them. Refining is the part almost nobody else on Earth knows how to do at scale. So even if you mine rare earth ore somewhere else, it often still travels to China to become usable. One country controls the bottleneck for the materials inside almost every phone, motor, and wind turbine on the planet. Let's zoom out from the phone for a second. Lithium comes out of the ground in South America or Australia. Cobalt comes out of the ground in Central Africa. Rare earths get mined in a handful of countries, but refined almost entirely in one. None of that is a phone yet. It's just rock, dust, and mud. It gets shipped, sometimes twice, to processing plants and refineries. Then it's turned into battery cells, circuit boards, magnets, and glass. That happens mostly in a small cluster of factories in East Asia. Then it's assembled, boxed, and loaded onto a container ship. One ship can carry thousands of containers, and each container can carry your phone's entire family tree. By the time it reaches your pocket, that phone has crossed more borders than most people cross in a lifetime. And every step of that journey is being watched by governments. Because whoever controls these minerals doesn't just control phones. They control batteries, electric cars, missiles, satellites, and wind turbines too. That's why countries are racing to open new mines, sign new deals, and build their own refineries. It's not a war with soldiers. It's a war with spreadsheets, shipping contracts, and mining permits. And your phone is sitting right in the middle of it, quietly charging on your nightstand. Here's a number that puts it in perspective. A single smartphone can contain around 30 different elements from the periodic table. Some estimates go even higher once you count every trace metal inside the chips. Gold, silver, tin, tungsten, aluminium. Even tiny amounts of elements you've genuinely never heard of. You are holding a piece of nearly the entire periodic table in your pocket right now. And most of it started as rock, thousands of miles away, in places you've probably never seen a photo of. So the next time your phone flashes low battery, it's not just asking for electricity. It's reminding you that it's still connected to half the planet. So why does any of this matter beyond the phone in your pocket? Even in the house, give off the Svarman weight in truth. Because the exact same lithium, cobalt, and rare earths go into a lot more than smartphones. Electric car batteries, wind turbine magnets, satellites, even guided missiles. Your laptop, your headphones, and the power grid itself all quietly depend on the same handful of minerals. So the phone in your hand isn't really the story. It's just the easiest way to see the story. That's why governments and companies are moving fast and quietly to lock down these minerals. New mines are being opened in Africa, South America, and Australia, sometimes years ahead of when the metal is even needed. Countries are signing long-term supply deals directly with mining companies, trying to skip the open market entirely. Some are building their own refineries from scratch, just so they're not dependent on any single country to process the raw ore. Others are stockpiling reserves, the same way you'd stock up on something before a shortage. None of this is really about phones anymore. It's about who controls the raw materials the future runs on. Here's a slightly more hopeful twist, though. Every old phone sitting in a drawer is technically a tiny deposit of lithium, cobalt, gold, and rare earths, just waiting to be reclaimed. Recycling old electronics, sometimes called urban mining, is becoming a real second source for these materials. It won't replace actual mines anytime soon, but it means the phone you're done with still has one more job to do. So look at the phone in your hand again. It's not just glass and metal. It's the finish line of a race that started in a mine on the other side of the world. Lithium from a salt flat. Cobalt from a hand-dug tunnel. Rare earths from a refinery most people will never see. All of it funneled into a device small enough to fit in your palm. Remember that tug of war from the very beginning? You're not just holding a phone. You're holding one end of the rope. And every country on the other end isn't trying to start a war. They're trying to win a much quieter competition, one mineral at a time. That's the whole world war in the title, not soldiers. Spreadsheets, shipping routes, and mining rights. So the next time your phone flashes low battery, don't just think it's asking for electricity. Think of it as a reminder that it's still wired to half the planet. Tell me in the comments, which one caught you off guard the most? The lithium, the cobalt, or the rare earths? Next time, we're digging into an even stranger fight. Why a chip is harder to get your hands on than gold. If you want that one, subscribe now, so it lands the second it's out. Because your phone was never just a phone. It's a tiny embassy for half the world's mines, refineries, and shipping lanes, sitting quietly in your pocket. Thanks for watching. See you in the comments, and I'll see you next episode. Keep charging, keep asking where it all came from, and I'll catch you in the next one. One phone, dozens of countries, one very long story. And now you know it every time you charge.